Quick notice. It's your boy again. I just want to say thank you so much for the support. We just hit 1,000 subscribers and still rocking. It's surreal how much we've grown, and I can't wait to continue the journey with you all. Just like last time, feel free to holla at all the mommies and poppies you meet after watching this video. Tell them NotNPC sent you. They'll understand. Anyway, back to jail. The story begins with the MC's inner monologue, predicting the dark, somber, and desperate events to come. He states that life is pain. There's no way to escape it. The only choice is to accept this fate and struggle to survive somehow. Even if we find God and resent him, he won't listen. God is just a bystander. No matter what your life looks like, he won't be interested. You're the only one who can change your fate. It's up to you to struggle until the very end. True to the MC's words, we cut immediately to a desperate battle. The sounds of clashing weapons and pleas for help echo through a gloomy room where rivers of blood and mangled body parts litter the floor. Corpses lie scattered, hacked into pieces. Decapitated heads and missing innards not far from their main bodies, as if attempting to complete a grotesque jigsaw. In this chaotic scene, the MC continues his inner monologue. He observes that, while people live differently, the end of their lives is always similar, desperate and violent. Sometimes, living requires more courage than dying. We switch to a warrior fleeing for her life, her hoarse voice pleading for help. However, she quickly meets her end as her arm is torn ruthlessly from her body. Next, a mage unleashes a lightning strike on an obscured enemy, shouting his reluctance to die in this manner. Like the warrior, he dies instantly, his body cleaved in two. Another male warrior wielding a great hammer has his head split open, brain matter splattering everywhere. And yet another warrior is savagely torn apart, helpless against the foe. Finally, the MC yells at the group not to scatter, warning them that the enemy is targeting the lone stragglers. He calls out to Maytal, urging her to limit the enemy's movement. She responds by casting an ice spell, trapping the enemy's legs in a block of ice. Panting and visibly exhausted, Maytal calls out, urging them to hurry, as she can't hold the spell for long. Two comrades, Stepan and Wade, answer her pleas, immediately charging the enemy. Stepan urges Wade to hurry, but Wade retorts, telling Stepan not to give him orders and to focus on his own task. True to their words, the duo blitz past the enemy, tearing off its arms. The grotesque creature shrieks in agony as green, alien blood spurts from its severed limbs. Seeing the immobilized and injured enemy, the rest of the party charges in. They can't afford to give it time to recover. Watching their reckless move, the MC shouts at them to retreat, warning it isn't the right time to attack. But his warning comes too late. The cornered alien responds immediately, growing numerous tentacles from its severed arms that lash out like lethal whips. In a swift motion, it sends them whipping through the battlefield. The result is catastrophic. The reckless party is shredded to pieces as if run through a grinder. Heads are severed, limbs are slashed, and the battlefield becomes a symphony of carnage, with blood and body parts scattered everywhere. As this bloody spectacle unfolds, the surviving members watch in horror. Wade curses the reckless fighters, calling them fools for charging in. Maytal, shocked silent by the gruesome scene, is at a loss for words. The MC takes the lead, instructing everyone to move back. If they rush in carelessly again, more people will die. He resolves to finish the battle himself. With his trusty sword in hand, he charges forward. Noticing him, the alien focuses its lashing tentacles on him, trying to shred him to pieces. But our MC proves formidable, deflecting the alien's attacks with minimal movements as he charges forward. He estimates the tentacles to be about 20 meters long, posing a problem due to their incredible hardness and speed. Without his sword, he would have been shredded ages ago. Realizing he can't keep deflecting the tentacles, he decides to gamble. Activating his active skill, Heist, he swiftly lunges forward, dodging and parrying the tentacles. Finally escaping the deadly tentacles, the MC lunges at the alien, his sword poised to strike. Panicked by his relentlessness, the alien unleashes its trump card. Its grotesque brain splits open to reveal a hidden eye. The eye powers up, preparing a psychic attack. To the MC and the party members' horror, the attack lands, kicking up a windstorm and a cloud of dust. Maytal calls out the MC's name, her voice laced with worry. But her concern is unnecessary. The MC, Jeong Hyeok, narrowly dodged the attack, and now hovers above the alien. Wasting no time, he reappears behind the alien, radiating an intense aura. Activating his skill Julian's sword, he slashes the alien in half, and its anguished screams fill the room. Amidst the spurting green blood and spilling innards, Jeong Hyeok strikes a calm pose, having finally ended the desperate battle. The surviving party members cheer, elated to have survived. An aerial view of the battlefield reveals the extent of the desperation, particularly in the alien's final attack. A system notification sounds, noting the mission's completion. The goal, kill the fast one, has been accomplished, and rewards will be distributed. Random skills or characteristics are offered as the first reward, and 10 souls are awarded as the second. Deeming his task complete, Jeong Hyeok sheaths his sword and instructs the party to take the souls, heal the wounded, and, most importantly, leave before the alien respawns. As they gaze at the mangled corpses of their former comrades, the party feels solemn. More than half of them have been wiped out, all killed from a distance. Wade remarks on the alien's intelligence. It used ranged attacks to keep the party from getting close. Turning to the MC, he calls him amazing for dealing with such a beast. The MC, ever calm, replies that they don't have time for sadness. They must regroup and move to the next room. But his words are cut short by a sharp pain in his back. Turning around, he is shocked to see a sword stabbed through him. Stepan and Maytal, noticing the sudden change, call out his name, worry in their voices. Unbeknownst to them, more backstabbing bastards are creeping up. The backstabber mocks the MC, thanking him for bringing him this far. Without him, he would never have made it. As he gears up to say more, the MC, furious and brimming with killing intent, clasps his palm over the traitor's face, calling him a traitor and promising to kill him. The traitor panics, stuttering that he was just following orders, and calls to Wade for help. The treacherous Wade acts swiftly, drawing his sword and slicing off Jeong Hyeok's arm, shocking him. The rest of the traitors act as well, stabbing the MC with their swords. Now reduced to a bloody mess, the MC collapses, clutching his bleeding stomach. With a livid expression, he questions the traitorous bastards, asking why they did it. Wade replies that they no longer need him and plan to share his soul and advance independently. Hearing their foolish words, the MC mocks them. How do they expect to survive with such trash skills? They clearly don't understand the danger they're in. Wade tells him not to worry about them. He should focus on himself, as he's about to die. The traitors taunt the MC, telling him he has no friends left. And true to their words, the lifeless bodies of Stepan and Maytal lie on the ground, bloody. Pale and disbelieving, Jeong Hyeok stares at his fallen friends. Wade continues his mockery, saying he couldn't risk leaving loose ends. Although he regretted killing Maytal as women were so hard to come by, he had no choice. He tells the MC not to be too sad. Death is inevitable. A traitor bitch approaches with a mace, taunting the MC. He always wanted to be a baseball player, and now he can live that dream, hinting at the Negan treatment. The MC, ignoring the mockery, is filled with rage. He mutters that he can't let it end this way. He can't accept this outcome. As the mace swings for his head, he suddenly roars in anger, lunging at the traitor. Using only his teeth, he bites a chunk out of the man's neck. Wade panics, yelling at his men to stop the MC before he can use his skills. But the MC is already fighting back. He draws his sword and decapitates one of the traitors. He turns swiftly, chopping off another's head, blood spraying around him. Before the head lands, another traitor stabs him in the back. Ignoring the wound, the MC decapitates this traitor too. One of Wade's main fighters lunges, slicing off Jeong Hyeok's remaining hand. Seeing the MC's weakened state, Wade steps in, determined to finish him. With a swift swing, Wade beheads Jeong Hyeok, sending his head flying. The MC's severed head rolls on the ground before finally coming to a halt. His eyes remain open, his defiance evident. Panting and exhausted, Wade curses the MC for fighting so relentlessly. But it's over now. There's no coming back from a severed head. Observing their fallen comrades, the traitors lament their dwindling numbers, but decide to push forward. In this brutal world, they can only keep fighting. Wade glances at Jeong Hyeok's body, conceding that he might have been the one to end their shared hell. The scene shifts back to the MC's severed head. In his fading consciousness, he curses the traitors, bitter over his unfinished battle. He regrets not avenging Stepan and Maytal. As his life slips away, He laments how close he came to ending it all. But, in a shocking twist, he awakens, his eyes shooting open. Confused and frustrated, he realizes he's still trapped in this endless hell, where even death offers no escape. Lag. Taking a moment to reflect on his disastrous situation, Jeong Hyeok lies motionless on the floor. All around him, the bleak walls mirror his current state. Bleak and listless. Everything is the same, even the cursed word, lag, written ominously in blood on the wall. Suddenly, as if coming to terms with his bleak predicament, he yells. His anguished voice reverberates throughout the tiny room. He curses and yells, repeatedly striking the floor in rage. Those backstabbing motherfuckers. He promises to kill them all. After what feels like an eternity, his rage finally subsides, leaving only his labored breathing. Nothing would change even if he screamed and made a fuss. His saviors, his enemies, he wouldn't get to meet them again. That was the nature of the hell he was in. Turns out this wasn't the first time he'd died. Death wasn't new to him. After multiple repetitions, you'd think he'd be numb to it by now. But you'd be wrong. Far from getting used to it, living in that hellish place only kept getting worse and worse. Gritting his teeth in frustration, he laments having failed again. It's always failure after failure, again and again, like a curse. Welling up with rage, he punches the wall, hoping to vent his frustration. This choice, however, proves foolish, as the pain from his stunt soon follows. Holding his throbbing hand, he notes that he hasn't awakened yet, hence the pain. Gazing around the gloomy and cursed first floor, a space covered in dark blue light, he laments that he hasn't been here in a while. We learn that the first floor is always the same. The only difference is whether he's alone or with others. Walking toward a nearby wall, he feels around its surface, seemingly searching for something. After a bit of rummaging, he finally notices a hidden compartment in the wall. Pressing it opens a secret door on the opposite wall. A doorway to another hell. Cursing the difficulty from the start, he promises to kill whichever psychopath hid that switch on the wall. During his earlier regressions, he was unaware of the secret switch, so he died repeatedly on the first floor, killed by starvation and dehydration. The situation was even worse when other people were around. Not only did they fight and kill each other, but they were also forced to eat each other. He had died countless times, killed by someone else's hand. Before the awakening, he was nothing more than an ordinary Korean man. As such, his failure to secure an exit led to countless deaths in that room, and upon each death, he would be revived again and again, only to die all over again. Staring somberly at the cursed name Lag, Jeong Hyeok comments on loathing it. He doesn't know what it means or stands for, but just like the word lag, he feels like his life is lagging. However, all that is not important. What actually matters is surviving and, hopefully, getting the hell out of there. He's grown tired of the repeated deaths and doesn't want to do it anymore. Resolving himself, he walks into the light, ready to face his bleak future head-on. What greets him beyond the white radiance is a wide white room, all but empty except for the red structure in the middle. The red structure turns out to be a bizarre combination of cubes, humming ominously in the quiet room. The MC takes a moment to reaffirm his resolve, breathing deeply to calm his nerves. Without further hesitation, he swiftly places his palm on the metallic interface standing before the cube. As the mysterious structure boots up, a system panel appears, identifying him as player Jeong Hyeok. After confirming his identity, it immediately begins the awakening process. With the awakening, intense pain follows, causing our boy to groan in agony. The pain, however, swiftly passes, disappearing as quickly as it arrived. As the system announces the completion of the awakening, he receives multiple messages informing him of the subsequent random allocation of skills. And true to the notifications, he immediately receives the active skills Light and Flame, as well as the passive skills Pant and Bare-Handed Combat. With the task done, the system informs him of the final goal. He is to reach the lowest basement level. Our boy, however, doesn't move, choosing instead to analyze his character screen. He has received the active skills Light Level 1 and Flame Level 1. As for the passive skills, Pant and Bare-Handed Combat are also Level 1. Scrolling further down, he finds more information. His public attributes state that he'll be limited to only 2 active skills. However, as compensation, his private attribute states that he can have an infinite number of passive skills. This revelation greatly shocks Jeong Hyeok, his eyes widening at the news. His shock is warranted. As usually, you'd get around 10 active skills, and the passive skills were always fixed at 2. This had been the case throughout his countless regressions, a fact that never changed. So, what the hell was going on? Although it could be fatal to only have 2 active skills, the idea of having an infinite number of passive skills is truly outrageous. Jeong Hyeok can't help but don a maniacal smile just thinking of the possibilities. His thoughts, however, are interrupted by a system prompt informing him of the random generation of a weapon. Our boy gazes intensely at the swirling blue vortex, hoping to get something good. Through sheer luck, something good actually comes out. A strong mini pickaxe, boosting muscle strength by 1%. As he swings the pickaxe around, the MC laments the absolute garbage he received in some of his previous regressions. Items that only led to his untimely demise. Seriously though, how are you supposed to fight with a pack of condoms? With his business done, he resolutely walks toward the next room. It's a full-fledged start, one he's determined to see through to the end. Emerging through the dimly lit hallway, our boy is faced with 2 choices. Basement level 1, room 1, and basement level 1, room 2. In his past regressions, he'd opted for room 1, but this time, he resolutely chooses room 2, deeming it much better. Walking through the door, he descends a seemingly endless flight of stairs, leading down to the abyss. After what seems like an eternity, he finally reaches flat ground, albeit shrouded in darkness. Utilizing his light skill, he shines a ray of light across the room, confirming his intended destination. Room 2. He's finally here. With a grim look, he resolutely walks through the door, which closes behind him soon after. There's no going back anymore. After entering a room and having the door close behind you, retreat is impossible. The only choices are success or death. A system prompt soon follows, acknowledging his entry into room 2. It further highlights the details of the room. The common mission, although for beginners, is noted as not easy. His goal is to eliminate the monster, a zombie, in the room. The first reward upon completion is a random skill, or a random skill level up. The second reward is random equipment, or the key to basement level 2, room 1. We get a bit of info about room 2. It's a pitch-black space where one can't see an inch ahead. Maintaining absolute silence is paramount to surviving the trial. In addition, sticking close to the wall is also necessary, as it reduces the range of defense as much as possible. As he traverses the ominously dark space, Jeong Hyeok remarks on knowing what lurks in the space very well. With his senses heightened, he listens for any sounds in the dark, searching for his prey. Picking up on some distant clatters, he immediately goes on high alert, waiting for the incoming clash. The sounds turn out to be the clattering teeth of zombies, inching closer to his position, drawn to the scent of his vitality. The MC, picking up on their ambush, immediately activates his light skill, shining a light before him. And as he expected, there they are. The zombies, beings with strong jaws capable of breaking bones with a single bite. Jeong Hyeok remarks on the only upside to these vermin, their slow movements. With his light skill still active, he somberly watches as the zombies inch closer and closer to him. Taking an attacking stance, he eagerly urges them to get closer. The zombies, as if responding to his wish, stagger toward him, their sharp fangs clattering. Our boy, still in his fighting stance, remains completely focused despite the zombies' slow approach. Just as they cross the 5-step mark, the zombies make an unexpected move, swiftly lunging at the MC, their earlier slow movements gone. Jeong Hyeok, having anticipated this, doesn't panic. He swiftly swings his pickaxe, striking a zombie in the head. The blow is strong enough to send the zombie crashing into a nearby wall. With 2 enemies remaining, he immediately resumes his attacking stance. Inwardly, he notes the zombies' weakness, their heads. No matter how many parts you destroy, they keep coming, unrelenting, until their heads are destroyed. In the past, there were many times he was beaten by zombies with only their heads left, eventually dying pathetically. In addition to their semi-invulnerability, their movements are more complex than expected. They move slowly at first, only to suddenly attack at close range, making it very difficult to react if it's your first time. However, our boy isn't a beginner. With his palm raised, he activates his second skill, Flame Level 1. A crimson flame shoots from his palm, engulfing the charging zombies. As he watches the burning zombies, our boy reflects on why he chose the second room. It was due to his pickaxe and flame skill. Zombies are vulnerable to fire, and when their heads are struck, it effectively puts an end to them. Activating his light skill, he continues his search around the room. The room clear notification hasn't sounded yet, meaning there are still some zombies hiding somewhere. Picking up on a clattering sound behind him, Jeong Hyeok immediately turns, only to come face to face with a charging zombie. The infant zombie, thirsty for his blood, lunges at our boy, its sharp fangs just inches from his face. Our MC, not one to hesitate, swiftly swings his pickaxe, killing it instantly. There is no reason to hesitate. The monsters are no longer human. With his task completed, he pulls back his pickaxe, ripping the zombie's head off in the process. Gazing at the grotesque creature, he remarks on never seeing one so tiny before. Was that why he didn't pick up on its movements until it got so close? The system notification sounds again, bringing with it the clear confirmation. It states that the Room 2 mission is over. Jeong Hyeok was the only participant, contributing 100%. As a reward, he is to choose between randomly acquiring a skill or having an existing skill randomly level up. The second reward is random equipment, or the key to B2, Room 1. Not wasting time, Jeong Hyeok immediately makes his choice. Soon the system sounds again, informing him of the successful acquisition of the passive skill Tough Skin Level 1 and the acquisition of the key to B2, Room 1. As he watches the key materialize, he remarks on his luck. If the skill had turned out to be an active one of his original skills would have been lost. So far, he has 3 passive skills. Pant Level 1, which speeds up his recovery rate. Barehanded Combat Level 1, which boosts his barehanded fighting skills. And finally, Tough Skin Level 1, which makes his skin tougher. Holding the key in his hand, he acknowledges his good luck in this regression. Not only is this his first time getting 3 passive skills, but they are also skills he can keep until the very end. Since physical ability is mostly affected by passive skills, and he can have an infinite number of such passive skills, there is definitely potential in this regression. He will keep forging forward, and with his new abilities, he's resolute to do it. He'll definitely conquer this hellish game, or die trying. Armed with the rewards from Room 2, our boy wastes no time challenging his next hell. Before him stands the door to 2 separate rooms. Basement Level 2, Room 1, and Basement Level 2, Room 2. To enter Room 1, he needs a special key, which can only be obtained by clearing B1, Room 2. As for the doorway to B2, Room 2, that's a freebie for everyone, as it doesn't require a key for entry. With a somber expression, our boy laments not remembering the exact details of all the cursed rooms in L.A.G. However, he's more than familiar with the first few. It's probably where he got his cheeks clapped the most. We learn that in the case of B1, Room 1, the room is bright, and only 1 or 2 zombies appear, unlike the cursed Room 2, where you have to fight in total darkness. However, there's a price for this reduced difficulty. The reward is minimal. Room 2 is obviously more difficult, but as a reward, you get the special key to access B2, Room 1. With a resolute expression, our boy bravely enters B2, Room 1, ready for whatever shitshow he'll face. As he makes his way down another seemingly endless flight of stairs, he reflects on why he chose the key as a reward rather than a piece of equipment. He's confident he can succeed in the mission for B2, Room 1. Another juicy incentive is that the reward is pretty good. Turning the knob for the room in question, our boy is met with another system notification. Player Lee Jeong Hyeok, the Chad has entered Room 1. The public mission for the room is to kill the bug behind the wall. The goal is to kill monsters from B2, Room 1, Space 1. As for the rewards, the first reward is speed boots, and the second is a random level up of one of his skills. Gazing at the loathsome notification, our boy laments the absurd difficulty. It's just 1 floor down, yet the challenge is already ridiculous, and they didn't even specify which monster he's to catch. As a point of reference, we get a better understanding of the structure of L.A.G. In this case, B2 means the second basement floor. The one in the middle refers to the exact room on that floor. And finally, the one at the end specifies which space in that room. For my fellow Chads, this basically means that inside a basement floor, there's 1 or more rooms. And inside those rooms, there are 1 or more spaces. Our boy reflects that so far, things are pretty good. Not to mention he already knows everything about the first few rooms. What bothers him, however, is the scene playing out before him. A man sits against the wall, seemingly asleep. This new addition to the party is player Kim Tae-min. His public attribute is breathing underwater, and his highest skill level is 2. Gazing at the sleeping dude, our boy can't help but wonder what the fuck is up with him. Even in such a situation, the dude is sleeping? Is he teasing death or something? As if sensing his gaze, Tae-min startles awake. Upon noticing the strange man staring at him, he almost shits his pants in fright. We also get an interesting new detail about the system of L.A.G. Everyone in the cursed game has access to certain information about the other participants. They can freely view the name, public attributes, and highest skill level of other players. For our boy, it shows his name, his public attribute. He can only have up to 2 active skills, and his highest skill level, which is currently 1. As expected, Tae-min is a bit taken aback. It's mostly due to the sudden arrival of the MC, but I'd like to believe it's because our boy has that alpha dog in him, rendering Tae-min speechless. All in all, there's a tense silence in the room as the two analyze each other. Our boy notices the hammer Tae-min is holding. From his memories, he identifies it as an item that boosts strength. The hammer is now covered in blood, hinting that it has been used recently. Finally breaking the ice, our boy questions Tae-min, asking him what the hell he's doing. The man, a fumbling mess, barely manages a reply through his constant stammering. Fed up with the nonsense, our boy tells Tae-min to speak properly. Tae-min finally pulls himself together and explains that he fell asleep while waiting for someone to arrive. Taking a moment to analyze the strange fellow, our boy notes it's unlikely that Tae-min passed B1, room 1, since he'd need the special key from room 2 to access this room. His scrawny appearance also doesn't suggest he defeated zombies in room 2. However, if that's the case, he shouldn't be here since he wouldn't have a key. All in all, the dude is hella suspicious. Our boy wonders if there was a third party who went into room 1, space 1 first, or maybe came down from B1, room 2. Drawing our boy from his thoughts, Tae-min replies that he was waiting for him. Jeong Hyeok, a bit puzzled, asks what he means. Tae-min explains that he had been partnered with someone upstairs. They had managed to survive the mission, but ultimately, the zombies got his partner. He tried to help, but he was helpless in the situation. Our boy, already piecing things together, replies that Tae-min must have survived somehow, and here he is. Tae-min confirms this, saying he came down in a hurry. I'm calling it now. This dude is hella suspicious. Just look at that teabag-like face. Tae-min goes on to explain that upon his arrival on B2, he didn't have the guts to go in alone, so he's been waiting for someone to venture in together. The MC, having picked up on something, replies simply, I see. Without wasting more time, he immediately heads toward the next room, casually reminding Tae-min to do whatever he wants. He can wait for someone else, or follow him inside. Flustered, Tae-min shouts at him to hold on. However, when he notices Jeong Hyeok has no intention of waiting, he decides to follow him into the room. To hell with caution, it's time to make moves. The system notification soon sounds, stating that players Jeong Hyeok and Tae-min have both entered B2, room 1, space 1. Having entered the new room, the boys are taken aback. Rather, Tae-min is taken aback. Our boy remains as nonchalant as ever. Having lived through multiple regressions, there are few things that surprise him. However, he understands how seeing such a sight for the first time could leave someone flustered. And true to his thoughts, the sight is indeed surprising. There's a forest inside the room. As for the sky above, it's hard to determine whether it's real or fake, but all he knows is that there's no ceiling. Grass grows on the floor and trees rise. No matter how you look at it, it's literally a forest. Though mesmerizing, our boy doesn't plan to stand around and ogle like a fool. Moves have to be made. He immediately starts walking toward the forest, an action that greatly shocks Tae-min. Flustered, Tae-min calls out, urging him to hold up. Does he not find the situation suspicious? They had been trapped inside a building, and now they're inside a forest. The whole thing doesn't seem right at all. After listening to his rant, our boy casually replies, Sure, it's suspicious, but what does he expect him to do about it? Even if he asked, he doesn't know where they are or why they're here. The situation is already happening, and it's a waste of time to sit around with useless questions. The only move left is to forge ahead and hopefully secure the best chance of survival. Tae-min, unsatisfied with the MC's reaction, urges him to talk more about the situation. Our boy, however, shuts him down. Sitting around talking won't yield answers. Life isn't that easy. The goal is clear. They must reach the lowest basement floor. The only thing they need to focus on to maybe get out of this hell. With that, he forges forward. If Tae-min needs someone to sympathize with, he can look elsewhere. But Jeong Hyeok isn't that person. Besides, he never asked Tae-min to follow him. Taken aback, Tae-min watches somberly as the MC puts distance between them. From the look on his face, it's clear this teabag-looking motherfucker is up to no good. Snapping out of his suspicious thoughts, Tae-min catches up to the MC and apologizes, admitting he was thinking of useless things during their dire predicament. Jeong Hyeok waves off his apology, telling him that if he has time to talk, he should also pay attention to the forest ahead. They don't know when or where the monster will appear. We cut to the boys making their way through the gloomy, foggy forest. Though massive, it's eerily empty and quiet, adding an extra layer of dread to the already dodgy situation. After what seems like an eternity of treading in silence, Jeong Hyeok finally stops, his gaze fixed on an obscured entity in a nearby tree. Tae-min, picking up on his strange behavior, asks what's wrong. Our boy, however, doesn't answer, his focus on the creature only he sees. He wondered how many of the vermin were secretly hidden in the forest. Not getting the answer he expected, Tae-min traced Jeong Hyeok's line of sight, trying to figure out what had the Chad all hot and bothered. The answer, however, wasn't one he wanted to know about. Camouflaged on the tree was a monstrous wooden spider, its characteristic being that its whole body was as hard as wood, and currently, its highest skill level was 1. As expected, Tae-min freaked out, scared shitless by the strange abomination. Our Chad, however, was as cool as ever, telling him to be quiet. The monster, noticing the two new prey, immediately sprang into action. Without any wasted movements, it lunged at the boys, its massive body casting an eerie shadow on the terrified faces of the duo. With a mighty thud, it landed before the boys, the force of the collision kicking up a dust storm. The boys had no choice but to clumsily leap backward, barely dodging the attack. After all the dust settled, we finally got a clear view of the monstrous spider, and it was a nightmare. With a body as huge as a truck and an almost impenetrable carapace, the fiend was anyone's worst nightmare come true. Damn, I'm developing arachnophobia just looking at it. Our boy, however, was built differently. Despite the monstrosity before him, his attention was drawn to Tae-min instead. He noted that Tae-min's movements were better than he expected. Even if someone awakens an ability, it varies widely, depending on the person who uses it. As such, the strange fellow was a real enigma. He was scrawny, yet appeared capable. Something just didn't add up about him. The spider, however, wasn't going to sit around and wait for him to figure out his suspicions. Identifying him as its target, it immediately charged at our boy. Jeong Hyeok thought back to some of his earlier regressions when he had unfortunately gone up against the spider and, unsurprisingly, lost pathetically. When caught in the spider's leg, the human body easily breaks in two. However, no matter how powerful the attack was, it only mattered if he got hit by it. As such, our boy bravely faced the spider, unfazed by its menacing charge. Crunched into his fighting stance, he waited for the behemoth to make its move. Although it was indeed fast, it wasn't something he couldn't avoid. Besides, he wasn't a normal human anymore. He was awakened, a being that far surpassed the regular limits of mundane humans. The MC demonstrates this by easily weaving and dodging the spider monster's sharp legs. No matter how much it tried, it just couldn't reach the elusive MC. Although the exact nature of the awakening is unknown, it is clear that it is a change meant to make the participants more suitable for survival in the treacherous game. L.A.G. Their physical abilities improve, and most importantly, they gain the ability to use skills. The MC shows off the full extent of his awakening by easily dodging the spider's claw attack. With nimble movements, he runs up a tree before doing a backflip, swiftly lunging at the spider for his counterattack. Tae-min, like a wolf waiting to pounce, watches all of his moves with a somber expression. This shady bastard is definitely up to something. The MC, completely oblivious to the ominous developments, continues his fight against the spider. From his aerial position, he jumps onto the spider, delivering a deadly attack on its leg. Reeling from the impact, the spider shrieks in pain, throwing the MC off its body. Jeong Hyeok, skidding to a stop, gazed sternly at the spider. As expected, its carapace is ridiculously hard. The fight won't end so quickly. Unbeknownst to him, the treacherous Tae-min was secretly lunging at him, poised to deliver a sneak attack. I knew it. This teabag-looking motherfucker was definitely up to no good. I definitely called it. With his eyes screaming murder, the treacherous Tae-min charges forward, his hammer raised, poised to attack. Our boy, finally picking up on the silent ambush, turns wearily to face Tae-min. However, to my shock, the bastard actually directs his attack at the spider, not our boy. Activating his active skill, explosive attack, the suspicious Tae-min delivers a devastating blow to the spider's legs, blowing them to smithereens. Jeong Hyeok, just as puzzled as I am about Tae-min's interference, thinks to himself that it was unexpected. He'd thought the sassy bastard would just be an observer in the fight. Nevertheless, now wasn't the time to mull over such things. Capitalizing on the opening created by Tae-min, our boy charges in again, craving some spider cheeks to clap. He performs a leap attack, landing a solid hit on the monster's leg, followed by a backward dodge, barely avoiding the spider's counterattack. Skidding to a stop, Jeong Hyeok faces the spider head-on, no fear visible in his Chad face. Analyzing his foe, he notices a crack in its almost indestructible carapace. Finally, a chance for a lethal attack has opened up. Wasting no time, Jeong Hyeok stealthily creeps up on the spider and, in a single swift strike, obliterates its leg. The bastard Tae-min also joins the fray, delivering numerous explosive attacks on the beast. The monster, left reeling from the attacks, shrieks pathetically, its once majestic carapace now reduced to a mangled burning mess. Taking advantage of the beast's immobility, the MC charges back in, planning to finally put an end to the vermin. Leaping onto the spider's carapace, our boy charges up a devastating attack, his muscles tensed in preparation for the ensuing carnage. And he doesn't disappoint. He unleashes a barrage of attacks on the spider, his movements so swift and agile that afterimages are left in his wake. The endless blows continue. The once devastated battlefield is now reduced to a symphony of thrashing and shrieking sounds. Finally, the beast succumbs to the MC's relentless attacks, collapsing loudly and breathing its last. With his enemy felled, the MC calmly rises, his trusty pickaxe squarely tucked away. The bastard Tae-min also survived the battle, although barely, judging by his labored breath. Jeong Hyeok analyzes the strange fellow, noting his lack of passive skills that offer physical reinforcements. However, he seems to be capable of continuously using his active skills, even if it's detrimental to his stamina. In addition, the sassy bastard absolutely sucks at combat. But he does make up for it with a high-level skill, probably even higher in level than Jeong Hyeok's. All in all, the bastard is one to be wary of, especially since the previous naive and timid face he portrayed strangely disappeared when he was fighting, and his real nature was revealed. The fact that the bastard can use that much power on the second floor means he'll probably be strong in the future. The MC is determined to secure his help, even if he has to be a bit forceful about it. But all that aside, the real reason he's keeping the sus bastard around, despite knowing how dangerous he could be, is because he's confident in his ability to kill him anytime he wants, should he deem it necessary. We cut to the boys walking in the forest, and as expected, Tae-min is yapping non-stop. He questions the MC about their destination, but our boy just ignores him. Not getting a reply, he calls out to Jeong Hyeok again. The MC, frustrated by his constant yapping, asks him what he expects them to do. Should they stay there? He lets him know that the battle caused quite a commotion. Other predators must have heard it, and are currently heading in that direction. If he still wishes to stay, he's welcome to try. Tae-min expresses his understanding, but he still wants to know their intended destination. Our boy, finally fed up with his constant questions and yapping, tells him to be quiet if he wishes to follow him. Tae-min quickly agrees, his meek demeanor returning. This sudden change doesn't go unnoticed by the MC. He's seen through the mask Tae-min is wearing. In L.A.G, everyone acts to deceive each other. It's a constant game of deception. Jeong Hyeok's thoughts are interrupted by a sudden ruckus from behind him. Gazing at the new guests, he laments that it's too late to make a safe getaway. The worst possible scenario has indeed happened. They've been flocked by a clutter of spiders. If you thought the lone beast was dreadful, try imagining a whole group of them, all thirsty for your blood. Tae-min, scared shitless, asks what they should do. Our boy responds to the idiotic question, They should run like hell. And true to his words, the boys haul some cheeks, with a clutter of spiders hot on their trail. The pursuit continues through the middle of the woods, then the path to the left, followed by the path to the right. The spiders just weren't letting up, and the boys had no option but to run like their lives depended on it, because they did. Finally, our boy notices that things can't continue like that. They will soon be swarmed, and he needs to do something before that happens. With a plan in mind, he immediately makes his way to a clearing beyond the forest. Tae-min, the noisy bastard, is quick to complain, shouting that the MC has led them to a dead end. Shouldn't they be looking for a door to the next floor, or maybe another way to get to the third basement floor? Jeong Hyeok, enraged, grabs the motherfucker by the face. With a chilling look, he tells him to shut his stinking mouth. Tae-min, dreading his doom, immediately apologizes. With a gentler tone, he voices his argument, noting that the spiders will soon catch up and they're trapped in a dead end. The MC ignores him. He's busy trying to calm his fury. He had almost killed the bastard out of anger. Looks like keeping the treacherous jerk alive will be harder than our boy thought. We cut to some general info about room B211. Although it seems like a vast forest, it's actually not infinite. Our boy intends to use that feature, along with the fact that the spiders will come hunting for them, to launch his counterattack. Activating his flame skill, he sets fire to a tree. He also instructs Tae-min to do the same using his explosive attack. The goal is to set fire to the whole forest. Obviously, the noisy bastard complains, but the MC tells him to shut up and do as he's told. Tae-min, still scared of our boy, decides to keep his head down and follow orders. With his trusty hammer, he strikes the trees, setting them ablaze. The embers from his attack spread wide, setting the nearby trees on fire. In just a couple of minutes, the fire blooms into a huge inferno, unstoppable in its spread. Tae-min asks why they did that. If the fire spreads, they'll be in danger too. Jeong Hyeok doesn't answer, seemingly waiting for him to figure things out on his own. Any further attempts by Tae-min to get clarification from him are met with a quick jab to the face, serves him right. Soon, however, the plan becomes obvious. The monstrous spiders, hidden and lurking in the forest, are set ablaze as well. Their dying shrieks echo in the forest as they fall. Under the somber gaze of our boy and the shocked expression on Tae Bastard's face, the spiders die, helpless as they burn alive. A system notification soon sounds. The mission is complete. The goal of killing the wooden spider is achieved, and the rewards will be given to player Lee Jeong Hyeok. He contributed 94%, while Tae Bastard contributed 6%. As such, Jeong Hyeok will be rewarded with speed boots as his first reward, and a random skill level up as his second reward. The MC explains that each mission has a minimum condition for receiving compensation. Even if you contribute toward the mission, if it's too low, you won't be rewarded. He reflects that the mission was only easy because of the nature of the room and spiders. They have a habit of tracking their prey down, so it wasn't difficult to lure them into a trap. Plus, their bodies are made of wood, so they burn pretty easily. We switch to our boy getting his rewards, the speed boots, which increase his speed by 5%, as well as a level up of his bare-handed fighting skill to level 2. He comments that everything seems to be going great. The boots are fantastic, and the skill level up is great too. The only problem he can point out is his horrible crime against fashion. Turning his attention to the stalking Tae-min, he asks him why he's staring so much. The latter asks if everything is over now. Jeong Hyeok calmly replies that if the system notification indicates it's over, then it's over. He has to quickly adapt if he wants to survive. Walking away from the bastard, he dives into his future plans. There are certain things he needs to acquire before moving forward. We don't know exactly what they are, but he's a regressor, so I'm sure he has something cooking. Behind him, the suspicious Tae-min is giving him the treacherous look again. I might have been wrong the last time, but my gut is telling me this bastard is up to something. Guess we'll just have to wait and see. We cut to the raging inferno finally dying down, leaving only its embers stubbornly clinging to life in the otherwise eerie, smoky forest. The boys, now free to move around, walk through the burnt battlefield, seemingly searching for something. Jeong Hyeok, taking a moment from his search, gazes suspiciously at Tae-min, his inner thoughts too cryptic to decipher. Maybe, like me, he's already caught a whiff of Tae Bastard's treacherous smell. Anyway, he decides to put that aside for now and continue on with his search. As he searches thoroughly through the battlefield, we learn more about the lore of the cursed game, L.A.G. Apparently, clearing missions isn't the only way to get rewarded in the death game. You can also get rewards for killing monsters, one of which is a soul. True to the lore, our boy finally finds what he's been looking for. A strange, luminous orb floating gently above a charred spider corpse. This is the soul. In L.A.G, souls essentially act as skill points. By collecting them, players can raise the level of their skills. Of course, depending on the skill type and level, several souls might be needed to level up. We get a glimpse of this when a system notification pops up, informing the MC that he needs 2 souls to level up his bare-handed fighting skill to level 3. Since souls serve as a kind of skill point, they can be collected and stored in the body, only to be used when the player decides to do so. Players can also take them out of the body and use them for transactions. All in all, souls are very vital for survival in L.A.G, serving as both a means to get stronger and as currency. Done with the lore dump, Jeong Hyeok looks around the battlefield, searching for any souls he might have missed. His attention, however, is drawn to the bastard Tae-min, who is actively trying to steal a soul for himself. The treacherous bastard, arms outstretched, eagerly tries to absorb a soul, his greed palpable. Our boy, with a knowing grin, mocks the bastard, inwardly remarking that it's impossible for Tae-min to absorb the soul. And true to his words, the thieving scumbag is met with a system notification informing him that there are still 3 hours left before the soul is released. We learn that in L.A.G, souls are owned by the player who made the most outstanding contribution in killing the monster. This privilege lasts for 4 hours, and it's impossible for anyone to steal the soul during that time. The only way someone else can take the soul is if the 4-hour time limit runs out, or if the owner actively transfers ownership. Although the system mechanics for L.A.G are interesting, they can't compare to the look on Tae Bastard's face. This motherfucker actually thought he could steal a soul. The look on his face is priceless, especially with the mocking grin on our boy's face. Of course, there's another system mechanic for owning souls, one that, although ominous, is still valid. We get a hint of it by looking at the crazed expression on Tae-min. It seems the bastard has finally decided to show his true colors. Our boy, seemingly oblivious to the enraged bastard fuming behind him, casually dives into his inner thoughts, planning his next moves. He currently has 2 souls, and it's about time he heads to the next room. But before that, there's something he needs to take care of. Coming to a stop, we see an extra pair of legs charging toward him. Ladies and gentlemen, the long-awaited moment has finally arrived. Tae Bastard, just as I predicted, lunges at our boy, his treacherous hands poised for backstabbing. I knew it. I told you guys this teabag-looking motherfucker could not be trusted. Nobody who looks this treacherous can ever be trusted. With his hammer brimming with power, Tae Bastard activates his skill, explosive attack, swinging it decisively at our boy. Blood splatters in the wake of the attack, and the camera zooms out, almost as if scared to show the result of the cowardly betrayal. Eventually, however, it zooms back in, revealing the outcome of the attack, and it is glorious. Our boy, with a move reminiscent of Neo from The Matrix, blitzes the fuck out of Tae-min, his pickaxe stabbed squarely through his neck. In a grotesque manner, the treacherous bastard coughs up a mouthful of blood, his eyes slowly rolling back in death. Our boy mocks him, teasing that he must be curious to know how he predicted the betrayal. He tells Tae-min he should have cleaned the blood off the hammer when they first met. Yanking the pickaxe from Tae-min's neck, he laughs at him. Tae Bastard had thought he could use the MC and kill him afterward, but he'd been playing right into his hands the entire time. Watching the treacherous bastard choke on his blood, our boy tells him that fools like him are common in L.A.G, and that unfortunately he's died many times because of them. So much so that he's tired of it. Without any mercy, he decisively swings his pickaxe, stabbing Tae-min through the skull and ending his pathetic life. We learn that one reason for the low survival rate in L.A.G is that humans, just like monsters, also produce a soul when killed. As such, some players in the death game hunt not only monsters, but humans as well. Tae-min was such a person, the type to hide his true self, use others, and do anything for his own benefit. From the moment they met, the MC had suspected him. Currently, they were on the 2nd floor, and zombies do not bleed, which means the blood on Tae-min's hammer must have come from a person. Additionally, as they were searching through the battlefield, it was clear that Tae Bastard was aware of the existence of souls. Zombies on the 1st floor don't have souls, so he must have killed someone and stolen theirs. Like the coward he was, he probably aimed for his partner's head after killing the zombies. But all in all, the bastard is dead now, even being used after his death. Thanks to him, Our boy now has 3 souls to his name. Speaking of being used, it's funny how Taemin died on all fours like a dog. Dude will be crossing to the afterlife ready for backshots. What a fitting end for the bastard. Jeong Hyeok reflects on how he was able to outsmart Taemin. He was already familiar with such situations. Through his countless regressions, he's dealt with people like that many times, often dying pathetically because of them. He's tired of that kind of death, so he's determined to focus solely on his survival. To make it out of L.A.G alive, he's prepared to do whatever it takes. The death game is a place where not only the strong survive, but where the survivors are also strong, and he's determined to be one of them. We cut to him equipping Taemin's hammer. The hammer turns out to be a relic that boosts strength by 1.2%. Although his fashion sense is terrible, and he looks like an engineer, his current loadout is pretty decent. In some of his previous regressions, he made it to the 6th basement floor with nothing but a crowbar, so he's doing pretty well right now. However, getting more equipment quickly is essential. In addition, he also needs to level up his skills. With his current gear and skills, it'll be a hustle to fight monsters. But he can't rush it. In the cursed game, impatience leads to mistakes, and mistakes only lead to a pathetic death. He has to tackle every situation with a calm mind. Saying so, he places his hand on the door leading to the next room. The door to basement level 2, room 1, space 2 slides open with a gentle swoosh. Behind it lies a long corridor leading into darkness. Our boy, not one to hesitate, resolutely walks through the door, which immediately shuts behind him. The system notification soon sounds, announcing that player Lee Jeong Hyeok has entered B212. Our boy ignores the notification and calmly proceeds forward. At the end of the long corridor lies another room, with doors on all its sides. We learn that B212 is a lobby or restroom of sorts, a place where players can rest and reorganize. One door leads to basement level 2, room 1, space 3, likely another trial room. Another door leads to a shower, just in case you want to be fresh before you die. The final door leads to L.A.G, whatever that is. Our boy, clearly having more information than I do, decides to visit the 3rd room first. Pushing open the door, he enters the L.A.G room. Behind it lies a mysterious, spooky phantom, a vendor of L.A.G. Jeong Hyeok notes that although he's used to seeing them, they somehow always make him feel uneasy. We learn that these vendors are forever silent, almost like virtual apparitions without any substance. However, that doesn't mean they can be touched recklessly. In one of his past regressions, a companion of his fucked around and found out. The blonde Chad had foolishly waved his hand into the vendor's image, and, let's just say, he got a very bloody surprise. Although surprising, such rash idiots are bound to die early anyway. Back to the mysterious vendor, our boy notes that they don't appear on every floor, so it's important to make use of them whenever possible. Approaching the phantom trader, Jeong Hyeok instructs it to show the equipment in its inventory. The mysterious trader immediately complies. With its arms spread out, it opens a pocket space showcasing its entire collection, and there's some good stuff in there. Trading with these vendors is simple. Because of the nature of their inventory, you can discern the equipment's attributes just by looking at it. Our boy, having browsed enough, asks to view the armor as well. The vendor, ever silent, complies, showcasing its collection. Jeong Hyeok, with a serious face, ponders what he can afford with his current collection of souls. With his mind made up, he immediately points to his selection, ready to complete the trade. The silent vendor stares at our boy for a moment before springing into action. First, it closes the inventory, then swiftly extends its long arm toward him. The gesture is simple, easily recognizable to anyone. Money first, bitch. In this case, money means souls. Each piece of equipment he picked out costs 1 soul, so he has enough to pay for all his drip. The ghostly vendor acknowledges his payment with a gentle nod before immediately retrieving the souls. Judging by how quickly it took the souls, it seems there are plenty of diners and dashers in L.A.G, which is actually quite funny if you think about it. Soon the silent vendor unveils our boy's purchase, a jacket, trousers, and a belt. The elastic jacket, as it's called by the system, increases muscle strength and agility by 2%. The same is true for the elastic pants. The leather hipsack, although a silly name since it's clearly a belt, boosts the speed of physical recovery by 2%, so it's also good equipment. Using telekinesis, the vendor hands over the purchased equipment to our boy, who wastes no time rocking them. First, the belt. Leather hipsack. Then the jacket. All in all, our boy is now officially dripped out. drippy beyond reason. With their official business done, the vendor surprises our boy with some extra provisions. Cooked meat and water, a kind of after-sales service. Even if the cursed game is trying to kill him, customer service is still important. Make sure to rate vendor chat on Yelp real quick. Under the gentle bow of the silent vendor, Jeong Hyeok leaves the room. At first, he didn't know what kind of meat the vendor gave him. Pause. That was hella sus. Anyway, he was unfamiliar with the vendor's meat, so he was hesitant to eat it. Now, however, he knows exactly what kind of meat it is. Taurus meat. With his current strength, it's a monster he can never hope to defeat, let alone even meet. For that to happen, he'll have to be at least on the 7th basement floor. With his scrumptious meal done, our boy drinks some water before doing some light post-meal stretching. With the official business out of the way, it's time to head to basement level 2, room 1, space 3. Before that, however, a quick shower is in order. In L.A.G, taking a shower is like going in and out of a washing machine. The whole process is swift and automatic. As he dumps this random lore on us, Jeong Hyeok reaches for the door handle. To his shock, the knob starts moving on its own. He isn't alone here. Acting quickly, he immediately hides behind the door, trying to make himself as inconspicuous as possible. As he watches the door slowly inch open, he curses his luck. He can't even enjoy a shower in peace. With his weapons dual-wielded, he enters a striking pose, ready for action. Out of the door comes a shadowy silhouette, which quickly reveals itself to be a mommy. Elegant in her stride and obviously dangerous by the looks of it. Our boy, however, isn't the least bit concerned about the mommy before him. His thoughts are racing, calculating the odds of their encounter. Every time players enter a new room, a system message appears. But only one message is displayed unless multiple players enter at the same time. The message is also very clear, either through a pop-up window or through a sound in his mind. That being the case, the only explanation for her being there so stealthily is that she arrived in the room before him. I love how the MC is a Sherlock in such things. But is he really going to ignore that view? The mystery mommy turns out to be Emma Garcia, a player with the public attribute to use 2 active skills at the same time. Currently, her highest skill level is 2. Emma, the Latina mommy, unaware of the stalking MC, stretches lightly. She had been worried about the shower mechanics because they didn't produce water, but the bath turned out more refreshing than she thought. Left uncertain about her future path, she ponders what to do. Her thoughts, however, are interrupted by a cold metal placed against her neck, greatly shocking her. With a cold tone, Jeong Hyeok instructs her to stay still. If she moves, she'll die. He issues further instructions, telling her to raise her hands high where he can see them. Any foolish attempts to make noise or resist will be met with a swift and brutal bash to the head or a hole through the neck. Emma, a bit flustered by how fast things are progressing, tells him to hold up. They can always talk it out. Jeong Hyeok, however, doesn't relent. He instructs her to take out her equipment and souls. She is to slowly kneel and put everything she has on the ground. Garcia, scared shitless, immediately complies, placing her dagger and pouch on the floor. Although he's aware she has none left, Jeong Hyeok still asks her to take out her souls as well. Garcia replies that she has no souls. Surely he should know that as well. Her words hold true. In L.A.G, it's impossible to know the exact number of souls a player holds, but it is possible to determine if they have souls on them or not. Gazing warily around the room, our boy inquires if there are others around, probably her companions. Emma immediately replies that she's alone. The MC, however, isn't convinced. He tells her to stop with the lies. If she already knows that he can check if someone has a soul or not, then she should know he already sensed something. There's someone else with her. Garcia, despite the tense atmosphere, shows a smile, probably thinking about the best way to explain herself. Jeong Hyeok, noticing the odd reaction, asks if she thinks this is a laughing matter. Is the situation funny to her? Emma immediately denies this. Thinking quickly, our boy concludes that the only place left to check would be the shower room she just came out of. With Emma as a hostage, he instructs her to open the shower door. When they enter the room, however, it's completely empty. Jeong Hyeok, a bit puzzled, tells Emma to speak the truth. What the hell is really going on here? Emma nervously replies that the person she was with had already left, gone to the next room, room B222. She further clarifies that after they finished their mission in room B221, 2 doors appeared. The stranger went to room B222, while she came to room B212. This news greatly shocks Jeong Hyeok. The system of L.A.G had changed. Normally, If he'd gone through room B211 and she went through room B221, they shouldn't have met. The only way to meet would be if they both went to the next basement floor. But now it's different. She went from room B221 and came directly to room B212. For you Chads who are a little confused, it basically means that although they were on the same floor, they were in two different rooms. In the normal setting of L.A.G, they shouldn't have met unless they both went down to the next floor. But now, she left her room and joined him in his room, which should have been impossible according to his multiple regressions. With his pickaxe held threateningly against her scalp, Jeong Hyeok asks if she's sure. Latina Mommy immediately confirms, saying she's double sure. Although the change is bizarre, our boy remarks that it's a good one for him. Normally, you're forced to choose a single room on each floor, but now that is no longer the case. So long as he remembers which rooms have the juicy rewards, he can freely choose any room on any floor. Diving back to business, he asks Emma why she didn't go with her companion. Scared and visibly shaking, Latina Mommy answers that the dude was a serious pervert. She didn't want to travel with him. As soon as he chose a room, she immediately escaped to the opposite one. Our boy, with a serious face, decides to think hard about his choice. Should he kill her or not? Currently, the only benefit to killing her would be to get a single soul, which is not really worth it. Latina Mommy, apart from being busty, has a pretty decent understanding of the survival game. Meeting such a person is very rare on the second basement floor. Another juicy incentive is that she can use 2 active skills, which is pretty OP. Our boy, lost in his murderous thoughts, is interrupted by Garcia, who's grown uneasy from the sudden silence. She directly asks if he plans to kill her, expressing her reluctance to fight him. She goes further to plead her case, saying that she has no intention to harm anyone, and, if that still isn't enough for him to keep her alive, he should know she's also smart, athletic, cute, and, of course, sexy. She has sexiness galore. I know it might sound like I made that up, but she actually said that. Our boy, tired of her embarrassing ramblings, tells her to shut up. With a calm voice, he tells her to travel together with him. Although he might sound cool on the outside, inwardly, our boy is thinking that if he is to end her, he should do it later, as it will be more profitable. Damn, it's sad. But currently, Emma Mommy is just a sheep being fattened by our boy to be slaughtered later. The Latina Mommy, unaware of her bleak future, asks Jeong Hyeok if she could turn around. Our boy agrees to this, reminding her to pick up the equipment she'd discarded. Emma Mommy, like a true simp, blushes at the sight of Jeong Hyeok. She had thought he was a middle-aged man from the sound of his voice, but it turns out he's a dripped-out, handsome Chad instead. Everything about him screams Poppy, except for his eyes. He has the eyes of a lousy person. Jeong Hyeok, a bit taken aback by the compliment sandwich, asks if she can afford to say that. He had her hostage not too long ago, after all. Emma casually replies that she's a positive person. All that is in the past. Besides, he already decided to travel together with her, so he shouldn't change his mind. Jeong Hyeok, in a roundabout apology, explains that his behavior was necessary. It was a means to protect himself. In this treacherous game, it's better to kill than be killed. Emma, picking up on his long and concealed apology, expresses her relief. She officially doesn't think of him as a bad person, nor as a thirsty pervert. Hearing such straightforward and somewhat naive thinking, our boy reflects that she probably hasn't been forced to kill someone, or maybe hasn't seen someone die before her eyes. She might know the fear of death, but she still isn't realistic about it yet. In that cursed game, they are forced to be close to death. The only difference is the form of the death, whether it's theirs or someone else's. Turning to our boy, Emma Mommy inquires about what their next move will be. Jeong Hyeok replies that they will be challenging the next room, basement level 2, room 1, space 3. Emma asks if there will be monsters in there, and our boy swiftly confirms it. Garcia Mommy, surprisingly resolute, immediately heads for the door, urging Jeong Hyeok to follow. Her false confidence, however, immediately crumbles, and she's left frozen before the door. Turning to our boy, she begs him to go first. She's a vulnerable woman after all. Our boy, however, isn't a simp. As a proud member of the Virginity is Cool Club, he tells her to go in first. Besides, he's a serious gentleman and believes in ladies first. Manners make a man. Garcia mocks him, telling him that he must have learned it wrong. He should probably go learn it again. Saying so, she opens the door. Behind it is a dark and eerie corridor. Our boy, remembering his manners, immediately pushes her inside. A lady should always go first, even if it's into a dark and ominous room. We cut to our Chad and Mommy traversing the dark and ominous corridor. The eerie atmosphere is further emphasized by the silence in the room, their subtle footsteps being the only sound echoing. The soul-saving grace in the otherwise dreadful situation is that Garcia Mommy turns out to be more busty than we initially thought. Just look at that figure. I mean, if you're going to die anyway, you might as well do it in the company of someone busty. No offense to our flat queens. I'd nibble on you any day of the week. Our boy, oblivious to the dynamite Garcia is parking, casually dives into his thoughts, desperately trying to recall the challenge of the next room from his multiple regressions. Garcia calls out to him, interrupting his thoughts. She complains about the room being too dark to see anything. In such a situation, what should they do? Our boy, always a man of manners, ruthlessly pushes her into the room. What's there to be confused about? Just enter the damned room. Garcia moans, startled by Jeong Hyeok's thuggish behavior. It's not the kind of moan we expected, but hey, it's something. The system notification soon sounds, announcing that players Lee Jeong Hyeok and Emma Garcia have entered basement level 2, room 1, space 3. Upon the system's announcement, the lights finally turn on, and the sight before them is revealed. Two Chads down on their luck have checked out of the death game. Shocked by the dreadful sight, Emma screams. Our boy, however, is as nonchalant as ever. His multiple regressions have rendered him numb to such things. This is lag. Death is almost inevitable in this hell. The camera zooms out, and we finally get a glimpse of the entire room. It is mostly empty, with nothing of note except for the hanging contraptions and seats, their purpose apparent. Calmly gazing around the room, Jeong Hyeok notes that there are two bodies this time. He doesn't delve too deep into it, but it's obvious he's familiar with the shit going on in that room. Garcia Mommy, the only oblivious one of the two, tries to make sense of the situation. They're in a room with hanging bodies, and on the wall are multiple screens, their content obscured for now. Leaning closer, she gazes intently at the monitors, trying to discern what they are showing. Jeong the Chad calmly answers her question, saying the screens show where they should head to. Their final destination seems to be a maze from the looks of it. Garcia, the Latina Mommy, noting an odd movement in one of the screens, points it out, urging our boy to focus. There was a man shown in it. As the scene zooms in on the man, we can tell he's having a hell of a day. Garcia, noticing the random NPC's expression, comments that he seems to be surprised by something. She turns to Jeong Hyeok, asking what might possibly be hidden there. Our boy, however, shushes her. He's too focused on the man to pay attention to her words, or her bust. Don't worry, Mommy. I can do both. The scene zooms in on the random extra fleeing for his life. In typical bot fashion, he trips on himself and falls. Garcia notes that his leg is injured. Should they go help him? Jeong Hyeok, however, turns down her foolish suggestion. Why should they go help him? Rushing in thoughtlessly would only get them killed. Besides, the man is clearly a paid actor. Doesn't she know in a horror film one person has to run and trip on themselves? It's an obvious development. As they continue to stare intently at the screen, the cursed game throws them a curveball. On the screen, a majestic yet deadly predator emerges, calmly stalking its prey. This behemoth is the masked lion, a being capable of eating anything well. Really? Anything? Ahem. Get your dirty minds out of the gutter. Currently, its highest skill level is 5. As the literal cameras for the death game zoom in on the dreadful creature, our busty Mommy, Garcia, startles in surprise. What the fuck kind of creature is that? Jeong Hyeok, the experienced regressor, isn't faring too great either. With a panicked expression and butt cheeks clenched, he wonders why a masked lion would be on the second basement floor. Lag had changed, and as it turned out, it hadn't changed only for the better. He cursed himself for being too complacent in his common sense. Of course the death game wouldn't be kind to him. It had changed as a whole, for better or worse. The random NPC, who turns out to be a genuine person and not a paid actor, was currently shitting himself. The lion had him in its sights. Like a spoiled child playing with a toy, it mauled him ruthlessly, his blood painting the ground crimson. Even as he screamed desperately, the giant behemoth was unrelenting, determined to swallow him whole. It even bit his crown jewels for good measure. Damn, just what did he do to make the lion that mad? Despite his pathetic screams and mauled body, the NPC wasn't going down without a fight. Activating his skill, Ice Spear Level 1, he conjured a freezing spear of ice in his palm. Wasting no time, he stabbed it into the dreadful foe. Jeong Hyeok, watching all this from the control room, sighed. It was useless. At that level, the skill couldn't do much to the lion. And true to his thoughts, the freezing spear just bounced off the lion's hide, doing 0 damage. Eventually, however, the NPC decided on a more strategic approach. He stabbed the lion through the only soft spot available, the eye. The lion, left reeling from the attack, wailed in agony. Contrary to the bot's expectations, it didn't release him. Instead, it doubled down on the damage, digging deep into his flesh. And I'm not kidding this time, his balls. In a brutal show of rage, the lion feasted on the NPC, completely ignoring his death throes. The man helplessly coughed up a mouthful of blood, his death seemingly inevitable. Under a bloody shower, the random dude finally succumbed to his fatal injuries, moving on to the afterlife squeaky clean. GG to our boy. Back at the control center, Jeong Hyeok and Emma Mommy watched the scene unfold in shock and horror. Despite the corpses chilling in the background, the duo were glued to the screen, unable to take their eyes from it. Our boy, vexed by his horrible luck, cursed. Throughout his countless regressions, there had been a monster in the maze, but never a masked lion. The situation was proving impossible. A complicated maze, an unkillable mob, there just wasn't a way through it. Fighting the lion was suicidal with 0 chances of winning. The best, and maybe only solution, would be to somehow get to the next floor without meeting it. But that was easier said than done. And with his luck, it would be a miracle if it happened. Calming himself down, he steadied his resolve. He wasn't going to give up, not just yet. This regression was a great opportunity, one he couldn't afford to miss. With a firm will, he resolved to survive. He'd survive no matter what. Latina Mommy, with her own MC power-up moment, thoughtfully analyzed the situation. Our boy noted that although she was scared shitless, she didn't turn her eyes from the screen. She was desperately trying to gather as much information as possible, possibly formulating her own plan. As expected of someone with good survival skills, a lethal combination, bust and brains. Jeong Hyeok, turning to the door, urged Garcia to come along. It was time to go. Emma, visibly worried, asked if they'd encountered the dreadful lion in the maze. The MC casually replied, "Maybe." Still worried, Garcia told him to hold the fuck up. Even knowing that, he'd still go in. Our boy, as nonchalant as ever, asked her in return, "What do you plan on doing instead? Stay in this room forever?" It must be obvious to her by now. As soon as you enter a room, there's no going back. You either move forward or die. If she didn't like it, then she could always choose the third option. Go hang out with the boys. Turns out, that was why this room was created, for the players to, hang around. Damn. Turning to the scared but still busty mommy, Jeong Hyeok informed her that they only had 2 options. They could either go into the maze, despite all they'd seen, or they could stay and do the same as the Chads. Garcia, obviously conflicted, gazed somberly at the Chads. This was a tough decision to make. Our boy, the anti-simp, ruthlessly urged her to go ahead and do it if she wanted to. He wasn't going to stop her. Garcia rebuffed, sarcastically telling him his words were so beautiful. Obviously, our boy is an honored member of the Virginity is Cool Club. Of course he'd speak beautifully to a lady in such situations. Cursing her shitty luck, Garcia drew her sword. This whole place was crazy. The game was crazy. She was crazy. And the guy she thought was a chatty poppy was also crazy. Why did she have to be trapped in such a place? Jeong Hyeok, uncaring of her ramblings, told her to make up her mind. That was the nature of the hell they were in. If she hesitated, she'd die. If she didn't reduce unnecessary behavior, she'd die. She had to be as quiet as possible, or, guess what? Yep, she'd die. Saying so, he firmly gripped the doorknob, poised to enter. Before doing so, however, there were certain things he had to confirm first. Turning to the scared mommy, he asked what skills she had and how many there were. Garcia replied that she had 3. We finally get to see Latina Mommy's skills. She currently has Heist Level 1, which increases her movement speed, Magic Missile Level 1, which fires a sphere that deals physical damage, and Mark Level 1, which leaves a mark on a target. Jeong Hyeok, skeptical, asked if she only had 3 skills. Emma, a bit vexed, replied that not trusting people was a bad habit. Jeong Hyeok, not buying her bullshit, thought to himself, maybe her private attributes are related to her active skills. A side note, if a public attribute is positive, the private attributes will be negative, and vice versa. Taking a moment to plan, he lamented that it was a shame. If her heist had been level 2, they could have made some moves. But as it stood, it was too much to deal directly with the masked lion. However, her active skill mark could indeed come in handy if used properly. It's regrettable that the busty mommy only has 3 active skills. But hey, he's not in a position to talk, since he only has 2 active skills. Garcia called out to him, willing to disclose her passive skills. Jeong Hyeok, however, stopped her. They wouldn't come in handy in the current situation. The only useful traits are the active ones. Garcia asked about his skills as well, and our boy immediately answered, stating his 2 active skills, light and flame. Inwardly, he reflected on not needing too much information. It would just make him dizzy. What was important was giving as much information as he could to gain Emma's trust and lower her doubt. Nothing else mattered at the moment. Turning towards the doomed door, he decided to head in. It didn't matter to him if Emma died before he collected her soul. Even though she was just a sheep being fattened, it was still better in his books if the lion got her instead of him. An added bonus was that if that happened, he could use her as a meat shield and escape. This mission was definitely going to be bloody and challenging for him as well. He didn't have enough active skills, and the advantage of having multiple passive skills would only show later in the future. So for now, he's cooked. On the bright side, however, active skills really shine in the beginning, so there's that. Another thing of note is that he has to be careful not to spam his skills, as it would take a huge toll on his body. But it was better to do so than die pathetically. Even if his heart gave out in exhaustion, he was still determined to live. There was no right choice for him here, not in this hell. The only choice he had was restricted to the current situation he was in. It was up to him to find an answer in the chaos. The death game was changing. It was no longer the place he knew. It had morphed into a hell that was hard to predict. What would happen in the future? He didn't know, but he couldn't run away. The only choice forward was to risk his life and proceed onward. Reaffirming his resolve, he resolutely entered the door, and the true horror of the maze finally revealed itself to them. The system notification soon follows. The public mission for the door is to get out of the maze, the main and only goal being to reach basement level 3. The condition for successfully passing the trial is to contribute 10% or more. If they manage to accomplish that, they'll be rewarded with equipment related to the masked lion and, of course, 3 souls. That was the public mission. The room also had another surprise for them: private missions for each participant. For our boy, the private mission was not to kill. The goal was not to kill people or monsters. If he accomplished that, he'd be rewarded with 4 souls and a random skill. In typical L.A.G fashion, the skill level would be random too. Jeong Hyeok gazes contemplatively at the system notification. Under the current circumstances, he's actually quite glad to receive that private mission. Fighting the masked lion was never an option for him. I mean, he did see the paid actor get his shit rocked, so that's obvious. Anyway, Garcia seems to be lucky. At least she won't die by his hands in this trial. It's truly a shame he can't even do the gentlemanly thing and use her as bait. The system was very ambiguous in its definition of not kill, so leaving her to die when he could have saved her would probably be punished. All in all, it's not a bad start to the nasty trial. The main problem, however, was the private mission she received from the system. If it directly opposed his, then it'll be annoying. Garcia, the Latina mommy, picking up on his stare, turns to him. What was up with the intense gaze? Was she that pretty? Well, mommy, normally I'd answer yes. But the artist really rocked your shit in this panel, so I'll go with possibly cute. Our boy, the anti-simp, casually tells her to knock it off. Turning away, he wonders if she's vigilant for noticing his gaze or just immature based on her actions. All in all, it seems he doesn't have to worry about her. We finally get to see the maze up close. It's not much, but it sure is daunting. Garcia, with some big brain moment, suggests they climb the wall to see what's on the other side. Our boy ignores her foolish suggestion. Emma, not giving up on her big brain moment, points out the electric current-like thing flowing atop the wall. Should they go check it out? Really, bitch? We cut to them standing before the maze door. Like most things in the game, they are given a choice, albeit both equally daunting. The MC laments on the maze changing every time he regresses. As such, his past knowledge is practically useless here. He's feeling a tension he hasn't felt in a long time. There's the obvious instinct and resolve to survive. But mixed in is the anxiety that this might actually be his last regression. The two emotions are blended, constantly plaguing his mind and dulling his senses. Our boy, however, chooses to put all that aside for now. It's not like anything will change if he stresses about it. Besides, there have been many times when he wished his death would be permanent in the cursed game, so dying isn't really a problem. Latina mommy pulls him from his thoughts, asking which path they should choose. Jeong Hyeok, like a true man of culture, uses the best and arguably only method to decide. Hawk 2, spit on that thing. Guided by the sloppy, he confidently points left. Emma, startled by the odd behavior, shouts at him, asking what he's doing. Our boy casually replies that it's a common thing back where he's from. Obviously, Emma doesn't buy this, but we don't blame her. She clearly gets no bitches. Getting serious, the MC reminds her to be silent. They are entering the maze. It'll be dangerous if she continues yelling like that. We cut to them inside the maze. The death trap is exactly as you'd expect. Long, dark corridors flooded with unnerving silence. In a sick twist, there are actually numerous braziers lined up against the walls. However, as expected from the twisted game, all of them are unlit, silently mocking them. Jeong Hyeok reflects that, currently, they lack the means to deal with the masked lion. As such, meeting the fiend in that straight corridor would be their doom. However, even if they had the means, the straight corridor would severely limit their countermeasures. Currently, the only noteworthy equipment in his possession is the speed boots he's wearing. If he gets a heist effect, he might be able to rival the masked lion in speed. Emma, however, would be cooked. There's just no way to stop her from being eaten. Their best bet is to hope they never run into the masked lion. Thinking so, they finally arrive at their first fork in the road. Jeong Hyeok deploys his divine technique, peeping Tom no jutsu. With perfect precision, he cranes his neck, analyzing the road ahead. From his stellar form, it's obvious our boy is an experienced Tom. Turning to Emma, he gives her the go-ahead. The road seems clear. They can proceed. And so they do, walking through the ominous corridor with no end in sight. They soon reach another crossroad, and our boy, experienced in navigating, immediately turns to the mighty Hawk 2 for guidance. Again, the sloppy points them left, and left they go. Emma, visibly shaken, pleads with the MC, asking if he could use another navigation method. Our boy, however, is a Chad. He informs her that the sloppy never lies. If she doesn't like it, then she can decide their next move. And so, in silence, they move, up until their next crossroad. Turning to the doubtful mommy, he asks her which road they should take. Garcia, a bit flustered, finally relents, officially agreeing to consult the mighty sloppy. It points left again. They continue on in this peaceful fashion until, inevitably, L.A.G reminds them why it's a cursed death game. Standing on the blood-soaked ground, Jeong Hyeok dons a somber expression. He feels suffocated, and his blood pressure is high. Why wouldn't it be when such a grotesque scene unfolds before their eyes? Not only did they hit a dead end, but a bloody corpse greets their arrival, almost as if mocking them. The poor fellow must have taken a wrong turn while being chased by the masked lion, ultimately leading to his untimely demise. Emma, visibly shaken, turns to the MC, asking about their next move. She fearfully brings up the possibility of meeting the masked lion but immediately drops the issue. Jeong Hyeok, equally vexed, curses. The death game sure is unforgiving. Emma, playing the role of supportive baddie in the apocalypse, encourages the MC. They should probably try the other forked road. Jeong Hyeok, noting how cool Emma seems to be, finally calms down. He chastises himself for being too nervous about the multiple variables at play. He needs to remain calm. He can't let his emotions be swayed. Just like Emma. She must be terrified, yet she's doing her best to hide it well. He can't lose to her. Turning to the scared mommy, he urges her to go. And so, they turn back, hopeful about the other forked road. As they walk the narrow and gloomy corridor, Jeong Hyeok reflects on how quiet and suffocating it feels. It's even worse because their footsteps are the only sounds echoing in that desolate place. He's been actively trying to avoid the long, straight roads, but the cursed game seems to make passing them a necessity. It's almost as if it's trying to force an encounter with the masked lion. Meeting that fiend, however, is the worst possible outcome for them. The beast doesn't feel pain, so whatever they do, it'll just shrug it off and chew them. Eventually, the inevitable would happen, and at that point, he'd have no choice but to give up on the private mission and use Emma as bait. Damn. I thought Emma had graduated from being a fattened sheep to a certified apocalypse baddie. But it seems I was wrong. We cut to them arriving at a new crossroad. Emma, as nervous as ever, asks for guidance. Maybe the mighty Sloppy has some wise choices for them. Our boy, however, tells her to decide. He's not particularly confident in his choice this time, especially the middle road. It gives him a bad feeling. Garcia nervously turns down the offer, opting to let the MC decide. Our boy, a bit puzzled, wonders why she keeps leaving such life-threatening decisions to him. Well, it doesn't take a genius to figure it out. She just wants someone to blame when shit hits the fan. It might be a death game, but mommies will forever remain mommies. He understands her, though. In such a situation, it's human nature to want someone to rely on. And right now, he's that someone. That being the case, he remains resolute. He won't drop his guard. You can never be sure what someone is thinking or what they're hiding inside. He should know better than anyone else, referring to the time he was sent ahead. Done with his inner monologue, the MC continues on his journey. By his side, Garcia is holding her own. It might be a death game, but both are determined to survive somehow. Who knows? Maybe things might actually go well for them. Or so they thought. Their naive hopes are immediately crushed by grim reality. Coming to a stop, a feeling of pure terror grips the duo, their faces slick with sweat and anguish. Who can blame them, though? Before them stands the dreadful behemoth, the creature capable of fucking up their day. The masked lion, as if sensing their presence, turns in their direction, its maw still bloody from its last victim. Surprisingly, there's nothing there. The MC and Garcia have vanished. When we zoom closer, however, we see they're hiding in a corner. A perfect blind spot for the beast. And when we zoom even closer, we see that our boy is secretly copping a feel. Damn. Even in this mess, he's still representing the squad. Truly, not all heroes wear capes. Jeong Hyeok, visibly nervous, tracks the lion, hoping it won't come their way. But his luck is absolute trash. The behemoth's footsteps grow louder, signaling its imminent arrival. Cursing his rotten luck, he desperately scans his surroundings, trying to figure out a way forward. The path back is too far. It's impossible to make the trip unnoticed. Worse, their footsteps would lead the lion straight to them. As it stands, they're cooked. But he can't give up. He can't stop thinking. Even if the odds are slim, he has to try something. Finally, a grim idea dawns on him. The thought is almost laughable, but it's all he has right now. Turning to Garcia, he asks how much she weighs. Garcia stammers that she weighs 55 kilograms. Then, in a moment of clarity, or guilt, she quickly amends it, 60 kilograms. Really, bitch? Even in this situation you're lying about your weight? With a serious tone, Jeong Hyeok tells her to trust him. There's no time to explain. She just needs to follow his instructions. First, she's to cast Heist on him. Then, upon his signal, she's to shoot as many magic missiles as she can. Emma, noting the gravity of the situation, immediately agrees. She casts the Heist skill on Jeong Hyeok, and he immediately notices how light his body feels. Next, it's time to enact their desperate gamble. With their backs facing each other, they ready their attacks. At the MC's signal, they activate their skills. Magic Missile and Flame. Two contrasting abilities swiftly manifest. One majestic, the other subtle. Yet both are equally deadly. The masked lion, still calmly traversing the narrow corridor, is distracted by the sudden magical projectiles zooming past it. The missiles, unbothered by the savage behemoth, stay true to their intended target, the wall. Our boy, holding Emma close, instructs her to focus. They'll use the explosions to mask their movements. Upon impact, they're to immediately jump. Garcia blushes at their body's closeness, but she doesn't let her horniness distract her. She's resolute. She will survive. What follows is an intense game of wits and luck, a desperate gamble that will determine their fates. As the magic missile nears the wall and the masked lion lunges toward them, Jeong Hyeok clears his mind. His sole focus is the impending explosion. So what if he's holding a hot Latina mommy? So what if she's clearly hot and bothered, drunk on his CHADY scent? None of that matters right now. What matters is perfect timing. When the missile lands and the glorious explosion erupts, he's ready to act. With no wasted movement, he scales the wall effortlessly, running up like it's flat ground. Using his trusty pickaxe, he strikes the wall, creating a solid foothold for their hopeful escape. All in record time, too, as the lion catches up, thirsty for blood. But instead of a tasty duo, it's met with a wall of flame, far from the busty Latina mommy it was expecting. Jeong Hyeok takes this moment to explain his big brain plan. He used the wall of fire for two reasons. First, to keep the lion's gaze down. He didn't want it looking up and noticing them hanging on the wall. Second, the masked lion hates fire. As such, it would be reluctant to approach the flames and, by extension, their hiding spot. The beast is designed to seek and track prey. However, if it doesn't find any, it will eventually leave and continue hunting elsewhere. Our boy nervously tracks the creature, praying his desperate gamble will pay off. So far, so good. The lion hesitates. But then, in that dire moment, the cursed game throws them another curveball. Zooming in on the behemoth, Jeong Hyeok notices something that sends a chill down his spine. If you ignore the majestic chad mane and the dreadful bloody maw, there's one detail that stands out. The beast is perfectly intact. No scars. No scars on its eyes. The same scars the paid actor inflicted before dying a pathetic death. The meaning is clear. There are more lions in the maze. Despite how dire the realization was, it wasn't the end of their horrible luck. Like the Chad Murphy said, anything that can go wrong will go wrong. And true to Lord Murphy, the trusted pickaxe, the only buffer between them and the lion's jaws, finally failed them. With subtle cracking sounds, the pickaxe shook, inches away from completely giving way. Cursing his luck, Jeong Hyeok panicked, wondering why the pickaxe would fail at such a time. Did he lack muscle strength? Or had the Latina mommy really lied about her weight? Well, not that it mattered, because even if he forced himself to endure the strain, the wall wasn't going to last long either. Just when he thought things couldn't possibly get worse, they actually did. A piece of rubble from the wall gave way and stealthily fell. And worse still, he was helpless to stop it. Damn. Dude really used up all his luck to have a Latina mommy cling so tightly to him. Before the rubble could reach the ground and seal their pitiful fates, Jeong Hyeok improvised. Using his boots, he expertly intercepted it, skillfully balancing it on the tip of his shoe. This, however, didn't last long, as the stubborn bastard slid off and continued its fall. Watching the cursed rubble, and with no more cards to play, Jeong Hyeok cursed. Damn it. Was it that much of a sin to hold a Latina mommy? Why was he plagued with such horrible luck? In that desperate moment, Emma finally came in clutch. In a show of pure athleticism, she wrapped her legs around our boy and caught the rubble with her free hand. Turning to Jeong Hyeok, she whispered to him, urging him to hold on a bit longer. If he thought his luck was shitty before, just wait till he has to pay for this. The collective curse of all jealous virgins will hit him like a truck. And true to my words, his luck plummeted. The pickaxe was finally giving way. It couldn't hold much longer. Jeong Hyeok noted the dire situation. He knew he couldn't wait any longer. He had to move, and he had to do so now. Whether he liked it or not, they had to fight. Turning to Emma, he signaled her to get ready. Garcia, quick on the uptake, nodded in understanding. Planting his feet firmly against the wall, the MC prepared to leap off, his face showing grim determination. His actions, however, were swiftly thwarted by a strange sound from the maze. Putting a pin on his plan, he listened attentively. He soon identified it as the sound of human footsteps, someone probably being chased by a lion. The poor fellow must have run into the lion they saw in the control room. But that didn't matter to him, because due to the chaos, the masked lion was lured away from them. Thinking quickly, he immediately turned to Emma, instructing her to use her mark skill. The Latina mommy reacted instantly. With the same nimble movements, she clung to our boy, and while still upside down, she activated her skill. Mark. A red projectile shot from her finger, targeting the masked lion. Upon reaching it, it clung to its body. This was the visual manifestation of the active skill. Mark Level 1. It could detect when an object designated as a mark was within a certain distance. Finally free from the harrowing experience, Jeong Hyeok leaped from the wall and performed a superhero landing. Of course, Garcia was still tucked in his arms, so you jealous virgins can suck it. He said GG to the bastard being chased by the masked lion. He might have had a chance to escape one, but now the two lions were probably after him, he was definitely flamed. Turning to Garcia, he urged her to move. They had to escape that place as soon as possible. Garcia immediately followed, activating her heist skill to keep up with him. Catching up to Jeong Hyeok, she asked if they were heading in the right direction. The MC calmly replied that he didn't know and that it didn't matter. What was clear was that they had to immediately leave that place. He instructed her to inform him should she sense the mark placed on the lion. They had to avoid it as much as possible. What followed was their desperate struggle to survive. They went through many forked roads and even met dead ends twice. However, fortunately, because of the mark placed on the lion, they managed to avoid an encounter with it. For now. Eventually, they found themselves running along a narrow corridor, similar to the numerous ones they'd been through before. Jeong Hyeok, optimistic about their progress, noted that they had advanced quite far into the maze. The end should soon be in sight. If they could continue like that, then surely. However, in typical lag fashion, just when your hopes are raised, the merciless death game crushes them. In that seemingly ordinary fork in the road, one similar to countless ones they'd been through, a nasty surprise was waiting. The MC cursed, lamenting that, of course, lag wouldn't end so quickly. It was a death game after all. Pulling the startled Garcia along, he ran away. It wasn't over yet. They just had to keep moving until the end. Garcia, panting and desperately trying to keep up, called out to him. Jeong Hyeok, however, didn't have time for her at the moment. He chastised her, telling her that if the info wasn't important, she could hold off and tell him later. Emma was resolute. Whatever she had to say had to be said now. That's when she dropped a bombshell. She could sense the marked lion nearby. This info hit our boy like a ton of bricks. Before he could process the info, however, more bad news came. In front of them was another masked lion, chasing its own prey. Jeong Hyeok was taken aback by how fucked the situation suddenly got. 0 to 100, real quick. Despite all the chaos, he still felt something was off. The masked lion chasing the bastards before them didn't have a mark on it, and the one chasing them also didn't have a mark on it. Then where the fuck was the marked lion? The bastards, oblivious to how cooked they were, shouted at our boy, asking for help. The MC ignored them, opting to analyze the situation instead. If his guess was right, then the most likely location of the marked lion would be the next fork in the road. Turning to Garcia, he explained the situation to her. He informed her that they'd most likely run into a lion at the next turn. As expected, the Latina mommy was shocked, but our Chad ignored that. He told her they would bait the lions from the front first. After that, she was to follow his steps as much as possible. Saying so, they finally made the turn, and as expected, the marked lion was there waiting. One of the bastards, unaware of the third beast, found himself in the loving embrace of its toothy mouth, his anguished screams soon sounding. Jeong Hyeok, unbothered by the sight, focused on Garcia. She said she was athletic, right? Well, it was time to prove it. Grabbing her by the arm, he used all his strength to throw her forward, straight towards the lion. Garcia didn't disappoint. In a show of excellent athleticism, she easily parkoured across the lion's body, gently landing in a dodge roll. Turning to the MC, Emma worriedly called out to him. Our boy, showing why he's the MC, parkoured the fuck out of those maze walls, sliding past the lions with ease. He shouted back at Emma, telling her not to stop. The door was finally within sight. And true to his words, the door to the third basement level was just a few meters away. The trio, the MC, Latina mommy, and a random surviving bot, ran for the door like their lives depended on it, because they did. As they got closer, he could finally see it, the cursed iron door that looked solid. The door to hope and possibly despair in that fucking place. The door to escape the current hell they were going through. And the door to head to the next hell they had to face. With a resolute twist, the MC finally opened the door, crashing into the room with a thud. Although they had made it through, it wasn't over. The random extra wasn't as lucky as them. The bastard had his shirt gripped tightly by the masked lion. If things continued like that, he'd be toast. With despair on his face, he looked at the duo for help. Jeong Hyeok, acting quickly, immediately seized Emma's dagger. With an ominous look, he approached the random bot. Although it seemed like he was going to cut him down, he instead slashed his shirt, freeing the lucky guy. Finally, the bastard crashed into the room, safe from the bloody maw of the dreadful tiger. As he walked towards the door, Jeong Hyeok explained that the mobs of the game could never enter through the door. As such, they were no threat. With a screw-you face, he told the lion to fuck off, loudly slamming the door shut. The system notification sounded, announcing that players Lee Jeong Hyeok, Emma Garcia, and finally Dylan O'Brien had entered basement level 3. Upon the system's announcement, the room fell into an unnerving silence. Dylan, gassed out and visibly traumatized by the harrowing experience, collapsed to the floor, panting heavily. Our boy, despite all the shit they'd just gone through, didn't lower his guard. From the looks of it, his paranoia was slowly rubbing off on our innocent mommy. Dylan, oblivious to the tension, turned to them, thanking them for their help. Without them, he would have fallen into the loving embrace of the masked lion, so he sincerely meant it. We get a bit of personal information on the new Chad. His full name is Dylan O'Brien. His public attribute is that any movement-based skill he has gets a buff of 1 level. Currently, his highest skill level is 3. Jeong Hyeok, ignoring Dylan's gratitude, focused more on his character profile. He noted that Dylan had been able to outrun the lion by utilizing his public attribute. He probably used the buff to survive. The curse system sounded again, notifying them of the previous mission's status. It stated that the mission to reach basement level 3 was complete. The rewards would be given to all 3 surviving participants. As for the individual contributions, Dylan surprisingly contributed more than our boy. He had 58%, Jeong Hyeok had 31%, and finally, Garcia Mami had 11%. Although surprising, it turns out that the cursed game is fair in its rewards. While our boy was busy fondling Garcia's plot, Dylan had been hauling cheeks in the maze, escaping from the lions, hence the high score. Turning to Garcia, Jeong Hyeok informed her she'd cut it close. In L.A.G, rewards are only given to those who contribute 10% or more, so Garcia barely survived. Emma, puzzled, asked if it was because of her mark skill. Our boy replied that it was probably because of the stony bastard she'd caught as well. The thirsty system had probably rewarded her for that amazing feat. I would have rewarded her for the amazing view, but that's just me. Soon, another notification sounded, this time for the mission rewards. For successfully completing the mission, they were to choose 1 out of 3 options: a sword, a mask, or a bracelet. Garcia chose the masked lion's bracelet. It increased her muscle strength by 2%. Dylan, with his rock-hard abs, chose the masked lion's sword. It also increased his muscle strength by 2%. Our boy, however, chose the masked lion's mask. It had the active skill, Lion's Cry, level 1. What followed was yet another system notification, this time for the juicy personal mission rewards. It stated that Jeong Hyeok's private mission, Don't Kill People or Monsters, had been successfully completed. As a reward, he'd receive 4 souls, which brought his total to 7. Turns out, not being a gentleman and using Emma as bait really paid off. In addition to the souls, he also received a random skill, and in typical L.A.G fashion, the skill level was random too. The skill acquired was Strong Bones, level 3. It was a passive skill with the effect of making his bones stronger. And I mean all his bones. I would have loved to explain more, but that would be, hard. Obviously, our boy was pleased with the rewards. He remarked that Strong Bones was a useful skill, not only because it was a passive skill, but also because it was already at level 3. Considering all the shit he has to go through to acquire souls to level up, I'd say he's goddamn right. But hey, with challenges come benefits. We wouldn't have gotten the pleasure of seeing Tay Bastard blitz to the afterlife without the challenges, so it's worth it in my books. Smiling deviously, he remarked that he had been drawing a big picture ever since he received the infinite passive ability. And now, with each quest and reward, that picture was slowly becoming reality. He didn't know what private missions Emma and Dylan had. However, it wasn't necessary to spread info about himself to them. In that cursed hell, a situation where they'd have to kill each other might very well arise, and the more they knew about him, the more troublesome it would be. In a real battle to the death, how well you know your enemy, and how much they know about you, really makes a big difference. Done with his thoughts, he finally noticed the odd and awkward silence in the room. Dylan, picking up on it, broke the ice. He apologized to them. He'd been occupied with the system's notification and had suddenly stopped talking. He tried to explain some more, but our Chad and Mommy were giving off some very murdery vibes. The blonde Chad, obviously feeling uncomfortable, appealed to them. They'd just finished a hell mission. Did they really intend to fight with their lives on the line? Garcia, unsure of the next moves, turned to the MC. What should they do? Our boy, with a calm gaze, told her to put it back in. Put what back in? And where? Anyway, Dylan, reaching out, proposed cooperation. They should continue to help each other survive, just like before. Jeong Hyeok, always a Chad, replied that if he was asking for help again, then he should forget about it. It was already hard keeping himself alive. Dylan, undeterred, replied that he'd up his game the next time. Our boy made it clear that he didn't need his help. All he had to do was not become a Sakura. He didn't need burdens in his squad. Dylan immediately agreed. After all, no one deserves a Sakura in their squad. With the formalities done, it was finally time to proceed. Proceed to the next hell. As they made their way down the seemingly endless flight of stairs, Jeong Hyeok dove into his thoughts. He remarked that the nervousness he was feeling right now wouldn't last forever. He had to hold on to the tension that kept trying to overwhelm him and suppress it. He didn't think Emma and Dylan were vigilant of him. However, he still wouldn't lower his guard. Whether he liked it or not, in that fucked up hell, if you wanted to survive, you'd inevitably have to kill people. And when that hammer finally dropped, most people would choose to kill rather than die. We cut to them arriving on the third basement floor. This time, Lag gave them 3 choices. Basement level 3, room 1, space 1. B3 room 2. And finally, B3 room 3, space 1. The experienced regressor noted a difference from his past regressions. Up until this point, there had always been 2 doors on the third basement floor. It wasn't that surprising that such a change had happened, especially after all the shit show he'd been through. However, what worried him was the middle room, room 2. Before he could explain why it made his balls itch, Dylan interrupted him. He called out, saying that if they chose the second room, they'd head straight to the 4th basement floor. Garcia, finally getting some dialogue time, agreed with him. She noted that the longer the room number, the more space it occupied on the floor. What she basically meant was that the more space it occupied, the more trials you'd have to complete to move on to the next basement floor. Jeong Hyeok, the CHADY regressor, agreed with them. However, Lag wasn't that simple. When a floor had only 1 room, it was difficult to imagine the kind of shit show that was inside. As much as it was great to head to the next floor, it was equally important to build up your strength by going down step by step. Moreover, it was the first time he was seeing a single space on the 3rd basement floor. If they weren't careful, then they'd probably join Taemin in hell, getting hella backshots. All in all, something was definitely fishy. The reward might be great, but the risk just wasn't worth it. More importantly, he was already familiar with the strategy for conquering B311. Knowing the strategy meant he could easily handle any variables that might arise. With that, his mind was made up. Dylan, thinking he was the MC of the manhwa, confidently pointed to room 2. Reality, however, humbled him real quick. Jeong Hyeok chose B311, and as expected, the hot and bothered Latina mommy followed him. Dylan, realizing he was alone and without bitches, immediately relented. If everyone was going to B311, then he should probably follow. Jeong Hyeok mockingly replied, telling him it was his choice. Dylan, flashing a charming smile, replied that he wasn't a jerk. On the contrary, he was surprisingly strong-minded. He definitely wouldn't complain about it later. With the formalities done, it was time to make some moves. The MC, with a Sigma Riz, donned his lion's mask, immediately activating the active skill, Fear. Garcia, feeling the effect of the mask, moaned. Again, it wasn't the kind we expected, but hey, beggars can't be choosers. I'm just glad you down bad chads are at least getting some action. Noticing the potent effect of the mask, Jeong Hyeok unequipped it, opting to use it only when he needed its skills. Turning to the duo, he urged them to make any preparations they needed before they headed in. The duo immediately agreed. What followed was a quick level-up montage. Using 2 souls, he leveled up his barehanded fighting skill to level 3. He also upgraded breathing from level 1 to 3, and finally muscle from level 1 to 2, consuming 6 souls in total. He had decided to only invest in his passive skills. With that, his total souls dropped to 1, specifically kept for emergencies in the future. Finally, with all preparations done, the trio resolutely headed into the next room, the door closing ominously behind them. There was no turning back now. The system notification sounded, announcing that players Lee Jeong Hyeok, Latina Mommy Garcia, and Dylan the Abs O'Brien had entered B311. Upon their arrival in the next room, the trio was shocked. Unlike every room until now, basement level 3 was packed. There were friendly and unfriendly faces everywhere, each eyeing them with caution and vigilance. The trio, experienced in the hell that is L.A.G, immediately entered a battle formation, ready to respond to any suspicious moves. Jeong Hyeok, with his usual murdery thoughts, noted that with his current skills and equipment, he'd probably be able to take down 5 people. However, he'd most likely die too. The enemy outnumbered them way too much, and his skills alone were limited. Their only chance of survival hinged on Garcia and Dylan's power. In that tense moment, the enemy finally made a move. However, it was an unexpected one. Instead of attacking, Their likely leader approached them alone and unarmed. In a gentle tone, he told them to relax. He didn't mean any harm. The gentle giant in GigaChad turned out to be Dwayne "The Rock" Smith. His public attribute was that he'd get a 10% buff on equipment that increased muscle strength. Currently, his highest skill level was 3. Jeong Hyeok visibly paled at the cheat-like ability. Apparently, a 10% buff was outrageous, especially since the buff would only accumulate the further down they went. To give more info on this point, skills attached to equipment cannot be leveled up with souls. In addition, their power varies depending on the wielder's physical ability. In Dwayne's case, he'd have a buff of 10% on every piece of equipment that increases muscle strength, and that buff stacks. So you can imagine how broken the attribute is. Dwayne, with a gentle voice, called out, telling them they didn't need to be so vigilant. He nor his group had any intentions of fighting them. Of course, he understood the need to be wary in the cursed game. However, as things stood, they would definitely have a better chance of survival if they joined forces. Jeong Hyeok analyzed the situation. At that distance, there was plenty of time for the bastards at the back to prepare a surprise attack. Fighting wasn't a good decision. With that thought in mind, he calmly walked forward, ignoring Emma and Dylan's shouts for him to stop. Stepping before the gentle giant, our boy calmly eyed him. He noted his extreme size and height. Only a giant poppy like that would be capable of leading the group behind him. Shaking Dwayne's hand, he expressed his intentions to cooperate, and the latter agreed to it. Names weren't necessary as the system revealed everything anyway. We learned that the group had run into each other on the 3rd basement floor. Of course, they didn't fully trust each other, but survival made cooperation inevitable. Dylan eyed the group suspiciously. He asked if they could trust them. Our boy, like a true Sigma, let him know he didn't trust them either. He had only fondled Garcia a bit. That wasn't enough to guarantee trust. At the very least, Lord Hawk too had to be involved for trust to develop. He informed them they didn't have to fight, not only because they lacked the numbers advantage, but also because it'd be better to move together for now. Emma resolutely expressed her stance, saying she believed in our boy. Jeong Hyeok, like a true member of the Virginity is Cool Club, ruthlessly shut her down, telling her not to trust anyone. She'd rather get used to death instead. Emma, however, simped harder, saying he wasn't just anyone. The MC ignored her. He didn't have time to deal with her horniness. We cut to Dwayne giving the group a pep talk, encouraging them to work together. Jeong Hyeok noted that he seemed to be the optimistic type. He further gave us some lore about the death game. Apparently it wasn't a place where missions could be solved just by throwing numbers at them. The cursed game was ruthless. Whatever you did, it'd just counter and fuck you back. However, that didn't mean numbers were useless. In some cases, they could come in handy. An example of this was the next room, B311. Although numbers weren't absolute, they could indeed help. However, if you thought you could pass the mission solo, then you'd be gravely screwed. But even with that said, he was still uncertain if the next room was the same as in his memory, or if the cursed game had thrown him another curveball. Guess he'd just have to wait and see. With his final pep talk done, Dwayne called for the virgins to assemble. It was time to head to the next room. Turning around, he confidently walked toward the door. To his surprise, however, no one followed. First of all, there was no way these bastards were virgins. Just look at this emo chick, she clearly gets bitches. And most importantly, they all had the same expression on their face as if to say, fuck that. This was L.A.G, the cursed death game. It wasn't a joke. Did he really think they'd follow just because he wanted them to? Even the bustiest Latina mommy wouldn't be enough for them to move. Jeong Hyeok, gazing from the sidelines, mocked the fool. It seemed he still didn't understand how the dreadful game worked.